I'm glad to say that I had a loving and kind father, and that made all the difference in the world in my life. We all stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. And now's the time when I'm going to introduce our guest speaker to you. We are so glad to have Dave Hilburn with us today. As I said before, he is a friend of this congregation. He has taught us classes, and he's been with us many times, and we're happy to have him back. David was a graduate of West Point Academy and was commissioned as an infantry officer, where he served in Europe and with the 82nd Airborne Division. His day job is as an executive recruiter. He is a passionate Tai Chi instructor, Toastmaster, and Unity teacher. It's his aspiration to become a Unity minister. We're so happy to have you with us today, Dave. Thank you for being here.
Woohoo. I think we just lost your microphone. So how's everybody doing this morning? Good. You know, and I don't know how many of you go to comedy clubs or whatever, but that's always how they start, and then they move the microphone stand off to the side. That's where we were starting today, just in case you've seen that. I also do stand up. Imagine this. For 3 days, your family has been traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast. You have been sleeping in the tail gunner seat of a Chevy Caprice Classic station wagon. Now, those of you who are laughing, and because you've never really lived unless you have been in the tail gunner seat of a Chevy Caprice Classic station wagon. And since you are laughing, you're probably over the age of 40. But as you come in, you're driving to the west, and it's almost getting to be sunrise. The sun is starting to come up over in the east. My dad wakes me up, son, get up. We're at the Grand Canyon. You need to see this. My family gets out. I'm 5 years old. I stumble out. I'm still awake. Now, 5-year-olds, for those of you who have had those people, you know, they kind of exist in a jungle of adult kneecaps. So by the time we get to the edge where we can actually look, I can't see that. I can't see that. Well, tell you what. Close your eyes and I'll put you on my shoulders. So my dad lifted me on his enormous 5'9" frame, 170-pound frame, and put me up there. As the sun from the east was starting to hit the western wall, the Grand Canyon, he says, okay, open your eyes. Wow. Son, you know what that means? We're almost to Disney World. So in everyone's life, maybe their father has held you up. And the title of the story, or this message was called Higher Ground. But it's really for either divine masculine, divine feminine. It doesn't really matter. For those people that have held us up so we can actually see the truth of ourselves. And a lot of times we can't do that. Now, today's Father's Day. There's no getting around that. Every church up and down the street, whether it be in Cobb or whether it be in Cherokee or wherever, they're talking about Father's Day today. That is the message. You wonderful people let me speak here last Father's Day, if you remember that. And some of you still came back anyway. That was great. Gave you a quiz last time. What is the most attended day in churches throughout all of Christendom? Easter. The second most attended day?
Mother's Day.
No, you're close, but it's what?
Christmas.
Christmas is the second. The third most attended Sunday of any church. Mother's Day. What's the worst attended Sunday in any church? Yes. So when I was talking about gratitude, folks, it was just good to see you, because all you guys could have been like out playing golf on the links or like by the grill or on the proposal. I'm just grateful to see all of you here. I am grateful to see all of you here. So today I do want to talk about the divine masculine, but it's also going to have a little bit overlap with being a father. Now, when we talk about the 12 powers with Charles Fillmore, we normally break them apart and say, okay, we have wisdom and we have love. Wisdom is considered a masculine trait, and love is considered a feminine trait. However, I'm going to submit to your dad, I'm going to challenge some of your thinking and say you actually have to have both, because we all have both of those, divine masculine and divine feminine, in all of us. And to be a proper parent, whether it be a father or you be a mother, you have to have both of those qualities in you at all time, especially when you're bringing up children, and especially those that are young. Amen. Oh, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. Now I want you to roll up my personal story. I want you to roll that up 30 more years. Now I'm 35. Another Dad and Dave story. This is not really a happy one though. I'm about to go through a divorce. And paperwork has been signed. Now, my ex-wife at that time, and I, all of the joint materials that we had, or joint property that we were in contesting with each other, my dad, very wise man, said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay for the storage unit, and all this is going to go in there, and I'm going to lock it. And I'm going to pay the stuff on it because, Dave, I know that you want to get at Luann, and Luann, you want to get at Dave. So, being the senior male in both of these families, I'm just going to hold on it, and neither one of you are going to get in there until it's time to divvy up the goods according to the court. We both agreed to that. So the day came. Court order had been signed. We were going to meet there at 8 o'clock in the morning at the mobile storage unit. I walk in there. My dad goes up to the gate guy who's been paying the rent to for all these months. And they're talking back and forth, and there's something's not quite right. So we go to the unit. Then, I'm pretty oblivious, but I say, hey, there's no lock on this thing. I go down, I take the handle, and I pull it open. There's nothing there, except empty boxes, newspapers, and dirt. I hit my knees, Dad. She took it. Oh. My father, 30 years later, older than the first story. Well, boy, looks like she was able to talk her way by the guard last night. She came in here and cut off the lock. I said, Dad, I'm going to drag her right back into court. I will give all my stuff back. I cannot do this. Son, let it go. It's just stuff. By that I mean a situation that unfortunately fell flat. Your whole marriage was like that. Let it go. Because every time you'd be holding on to some of that, you'd just be thinking about her. There would be that attachment to that. You wouldn't be able to move forward in your life. I know you. I'm your father. That was very true. That I was able to let that go. I did not pursue anything in court. But the lesson stuck with me. Sometimes, in the wisdom and in the love, you have to make an intervention. Dad almost had to make an intervention there when we going into court. I'll give you another example, and most of you guys can be able to relate to this one. Gentlemen, and all you guys that are here, have you ever had a favorite workout shirt or work shirt that you went into the yard with, a t-shirt that might be getting a little comfortable, a little worn, maybe a few holes? Some of you are laughing because you know where I'm going with this. It might have something really cool on it. It was like, for me, it was like Spring Break, Daytona, 1983. You come back home one day, and say, Mom, it's time for me to go cut the yard. And it's missing. Strangely enough, it's not there. And you go to your significant other or wife and say, hey, have you seen my shirt, Spring Break, Daytona, 1983? I have no idea where it's at. Until you go check the rag box for like doing cut right down the middle. Sometimes, but it was in the best interest. It was those types of shirts looking bad? Absolutely. Sometimes somebody does have to make an intervention in your life that can see a better you. He doesn't need to be wearing that even outside in the yard. He doesn't need to be wearing that in the gym with all these holes in it, especially guys, you know what I'm saying? When you get the hole under the armpit, it's just not looking so good. So today I'm going to move on to a story, and we've already hit part of it, about fathers who have to intervene. And part of this I am going to read, and I don't like doing that necessarily, but it did come from our Father's Day piece right out of Daily Word. And I'm going to be telling you that this is the story of the prodigal son, or the lost son. Now, remember, when Jesus is doing this, he's already given us this, in succession, he's given us the story of the lost coin, of the lost sheep. Now, we call this the prodigal son, but really it's pretty much the lost son. And I'm going to be reading from the Message Bible. If any of you want to pull it out on your pad or your cell phone or whatever, it's coming from Luke, the Gospel of Luke, the 15th chapter. It's the only place that Jesus actually mentions this, or in the Gospels this is actually mentioned. And then he said, once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, Father, right now I want what's coming to me. So the father divided the property between them. And it wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he'd gone through all of his money, there was a bad famine all throughout the country, and he began to hurt. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry he would have eaten the corn cobs in the pig slop, but nobody would give him any. That brought him to his senses. Now, I got to tell you, this is the one that we like in Unity. We love this story in Unity. This is like a timeout. This is the one at Unity Village or whatever New Thought church you go to. We love this particular saying because what it indicates is there's been a shift in consciousness. The son has come to his senses. He has made that jump. But that's only part of the story. So today, we're going to go past that. All those farmhands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day. And here I am, starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I have sinned against God. I sinned before you. I do not deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand. So he got right back up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, and we like that in New Thought too, because when we talk about long way off, we're talking about in streams of consciousness. It's like, okay, this guy is a long way from where Dad was. We like that. Just park that one for a minute. His father saw him, his heart pounding, he ran down. He embraced him and kissed him. The son started his speech. Father, I've sinned against God, I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again. But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to the servants, quick, you get a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his fingers and sandals on his feet. Then get a grain-fed heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now alive. Given up for lost and now found. And then he began to have a wonderful time. Now all this time, the older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. So he approached the house. He heard the music and dancing. Calling one of the houseboys, he asked, what's going on? The houseboy told him, your brother came home. Your father's ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has left him safe and sound. The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk, refused to join. His father then came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, look, how many of these years have I served you, never giving you one moment of grief, but you have never thrown a party for me and my friends? Then the son of yours, who has thrown away your money on lascivious women, shows up and you go all out with a feast. His father said, son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time. And everything that is mine is now yours. But this was a wonderful time. We have had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and now he's found. I wanted to read the baseline story, because now we're going to take a deeper look at it. Now, let's put this in modern context. Most of us, well, all of us grew up in the 20th or the 21st century at some point in time. So most of the time when we read the Bible's been read to us time and time and time again. Unless you were brought up in Unity, you probably were either hit with the Bible a lot, or read the Bible a lot, or the Bible was read to you a lot from when you were a small child. And the stories seem to get to be a little repetitive. And you know that, okay, I know how it ends. You know, I've seen, okay, birth, Bethlehem, okay, crucifixion, resurrection, got all that. But what we seem to miss on these stories is the cultural context from which it was taken. Because everybody, primarily in New Thought, looks at the story and says, oh man, this is about personal consciousness coming to grow. I would say, no, this is about wisdom and love. And I'm going to like you to think about a few things, because I might bring up a few things that you haven't thought about or did not know. First of all, if Jesus actually told the story as it was attributed to him, people would, after they finished the story, when he spoke it in Aramaic, would say, Jesus, surely you're joking. His father would say, no, and don't call me Shirley. But there are, okay, I stepped on laughter, sorry, the first rule of comedy. But the very first question I want you to ask is, where was the mom in all of this? Ladies, haven't you ever wondered that? Because guys, we really don't think about it. But you got to ask, where was the mom in all of this? Because this story would have never happened. One, she would have said, hey, don't talk to your father like that. Get back to the fields, and next time you come in the house, take off those muddy sandals. So there was no mom in this at all. So this story would have never taken place. That son would not have been so bold. And then, talk about it. Think about this in context. How many of you have ever been an 18-year-old boy, raised an 18-year-old boy, or been in a household with an 18-year-old boy? Okay, a few of you. Okay. So you know, what they are is basically eating machines that cause a lot of dirty laundry to be created, right? They wipe that out. My dad was so glad when I went to West Point because the grocery bill had cut itself in half. Between me and I was 18, my brother was 17, we could just clean the place out like a horde of locusts. So that's the kind of context. Now, how many of you would have actually given an 18-year-old to maybe 21-year-old boy and said, okay, you want all your inheritance? Here you go. Here's $40,000. Go for it, kid. How many people would be calling DFAC? So let's put this in context. This is not something that, this does not seem right to us if we actually put it where in the modern day technology or modern day theme. This does not seem right to us because it's not. It was very unusual. And that's one of the first analogies I would like to bring up. The younger son said to his father, I want what's coming to me now. Now, first of all, he was the younger son. It's traditionally given up. And they did not get as much as the older brother. He got 1/3, the other one got 2/3. It's called the law of primogeniture. And the older gets more. But the way he asked for it, he basically told his father, I wish you were dead. Well, we have a man who is in charge of a farm, in charge of an estate, and his youngest son says, I want what's mine, come to me now. It's the same thing as, Dad, I wish you were dead, or drop dead. A huge insult back in Jewish tradition and custom. Boom, would not have flown. That is horrible. The guy could have disowned his son on the spot. But instead, he reacted with love and said, okay, let's see how you do. He gave him the stuff, gave him the money. Then, the younger son went to a foreign land. Perhaps from here he could have gone to, I don't know, maybe somewhere in Alabama. We never know. But there he had a riotous lifestyle or was not frugal with his money. And he lost everything that he had. That's in verse 15. Now, maybe you are aware, maybe you are not, but in the Talmud, not the Old Testament, if a Jewish person lost their inheritance to a bunch of Gentiles, they could not go back home. It was over. You've lost your money to the unwashed, the unclean. You cannot come back to your village. You cannot come back to your family unless you have patriarchal or Big Daddy's authority to do so. You are completely disowned. And they have this great ceremony we're going to talk about in just a second. But so what he's doing there, he's fallen down in 3 areas. 1, he's working for Gentiles. Ooh, not good. 2, cavorting with pigs. If you're a Jewish person, not good. He is willing to eat the slop that the pigs have. Now we call this, if you want to like the down and out story, if you're like, guys, hey, I was in the, I got divorced, I started drinking myself into a size 255 body size. Boom. That is your bottom out story. That is this guy has, the part that I think Jesus is trying to make here, the kid has bottomed out. He has bottomed out. He is at the end of his rope. This is it. And this brought him to his senses, which we've talked about. Everybody loves that in New Thought. He said, I'm going back to my father. Woo! Okay, there's problem there. There's no going back home. How many, any former Jewish people here, really Jewish people, like Talmud thumping, like we used to say Bible thumping, Talmud, Torah thumping types? There's a little process they call it kazaza, a ceremony. And this, I found this hard to believe, but first century people did this. If somebody had done something absolutely horrible, like disgrace your father, or had lost all their money to inheritance to the Gentiles, boom, The village would come out, have a huge pot, would put burnt corn, burnt acorns, and as the person came up, they would accuse him of doing this horrible thing, break the pot by whatever means necessary. Our fellowship with you and this village is broken. Go. So the young man was probably expecting that. That's why he comes up with a follow-up line, take me on as a hired hand. Now let's go back to some father's love. The father loved his son, obviously. And he was wise also. We have wisdom and love. Because the dad, you see, I can just picture him. Have you ever waited for somebody to come, any of you who are parents, you've waited for the school bus, or you've waited for a kid to come home, or maybe you've waited for a young soldier, male or female, to come back from war. And you're out there and you're looking for them. You're looking for them at the bus stop. You're looking for them when they're coming up the driveway. This father was like that. There was that type of love. He never gave up on his son. But he knew that if the villagers get to him first, they are going to surround him and tell him to leave. So the father was not afraid to embarrass himself. Now guys, if you think it's good being a man now, it was really good to be the man of the house back then. Because fathers, I'm going to sit back in this chair. If this kazaza thing took place, the proper protocol was the son would come to the side of the house. You would be sitting down, and from outside you would lose your earpiece. And you would cast off your earpiece. Got to get a thinner backside. What? Okay. So you're sitting down. The child would be outside, placating you. Oh, Father, basically it's the same words. I have sinned against you. I have sinned against God. That is part of the spiel. The father, the expected result was the father said, away with you, boom, and the villagers would actually throw him away. Dad is waiting on the side. He rushes. Okay, so here's part of it. He's in a robe. Guys back then, if you're the head of the household, one, you're not running. Patriarchs in the Middle East do not run because they're in robes. That means you would have to hike up your robe, hike up your dress there, and make it out to the village, to the edge of the village, to see this kid that nobody wants to see anymore. But in doing so, you've exposed your legs and you've actually publicly embarrassed yourself by exposing yourself to the rest of the village. This dad loved his son so much that it was okay. He did not mind the public embarrassment. He ran out there and hugged him and kissed him. And the son in the Messenger Bible actually starts going through the placations of the father that he was supposed to do at the house. Father stops him. So there's three things he gives him. Robe, sandals, ring. All of those are signs of being put back into a right relationship. A ring. Joseph was given a ring when he became one of the ministers of Egypt. And we could actually seal things and make that happen. Same thing. Sandals, the only people that didn't wear sandals were slaves and servants. So this is actually putting the younger son back into relationship with the father. A fatted calf goes without saying. So the son has been restored, but the father is still showing love and wisdom. He's got another boy. He's got the older son to deal with now. Goes back, the end of the workday's here. So have you ever copped an attitude? Have you ever grown up with another brother or sister? You played one against the other. If he got that, I should get this. Well, if he's getting that for Christmas, I know I should have gotten that. Or if they're going here, I need to go there. If they're going to band camp, I need to go to whatever, soccer camp. That sort of thing. Well, this is what the